most powerful army that ever existed in human history. They can appear anywhere. They have the power to wipe out any country in the world. Yes, they are the people everyone knows who. They are the military forces of the United States of America. In this video, let's find out 5 reasons why the US military has always been a force that no country wants to provoke. With the ability to deliver a preemptive strike almost instantly to any territory in the world, through any defense, the Air Force has always been the pioneering force of the United States in every war. The US Air Force is the force that any great power should fear. Not the first country to have an Air Force, but since the First World War, seeing the level of destruction and efficiency of military aircraft, the Americans have constantly developed the Air Force and became the most preeminent force in the world. Not only the power of destruction, but also the power of air, space, and cyber warfare. The US Air Force currently owns 406 ballistic missiles and 170 military satellites. Like other air forces, military aircraft from bombers, fighters, attack aircraft, and reconnaissance aircraft are still the backbone of the US Air Force. With more than 5,217 military aircraft out of a total of 13,247 aircraft used in the military, the US Air Force is currently the largest force in the world. Not only overwhelming in number, according to Fly Global's 2021 report, most of the aircraft in the US Air Force payroll are the most modern military aircraft in the world. The strategic bomber force alone can be considered the most effective deterrent weapon of the Americans. In addition to famous B-52s on the Vietnam battlefield, the US Air Force currently owns 62 strategic bomber B-1 Lancer, with the ability to quickly bomb, and most notably 21 B-2 Spirits with a range of up to 11,000 kilometers. In addition, the Americans currently own about 400 modern 5th-generation stealth fighters F-22 and F-35. The US Air Force currently operates 790 F-16 4th-generation fighters and 490 F-15 fighters. For comparison, the Russian Air Force currently owns only 3,829 military aircraft, even when adding 310 aircraft of the Russian Navy. There are only 4,139 military aircraft. As for the Chinese Air Force, China currently possesses 2,084 military aircraft in a state of readiness. Among these include obsolete aircraft such as J-7, a copy of MiG-21, J-8, a copy of Su-15. Even the Chengdu J-20, China's most modern fighter jet, is said to have not been able to put into combat due to some ancient problems. There will be a long way to go for China to catch up with the US in terms of air power. On actual battlefields, the deterrent power of the Air Force will be less effective against tenacious opponents, if they do not have close coordination with the Navy. With intense firepower, high maneuverability, presence in all parts of the world, the mere presence of the US Navy is enough to make our opponents wary before intending to wage war. That is the second reason. In a 2020 report, the Pentagon said Beijing's military potential has increased dramatically over the past 20 years, thanks to its ambitious armed forces modernization program. With the ambition of controlling the East and South China Seas, and at the same time reaching out to become a blue water navy, capable of fighting in any sea in the world. The Chinese Navy has developed in scale into the world's leading, even surpassing the US in some aspects. However, at least for the time being, US citizens need not worry too much about a scenario where the Chinese Navy could approach US shores. Overall, the US Navy's strategic deterrent capability remains at a relatively distant level from the rest of the world. The US is currently the country with the largest number of aircraft carriers in the world. These include 10 Nimitz-class nuclear-powered aircraft carriers and 1 Ford-class aircraft carrier, along with 11 amphibious ashore ships, 22 cruisers, 72 destroyers, 8 minesweepers, and a variety of other warships. The US Navy is fully capable of attacking, maneuvering, deterring, or preempting any adversary as soon as hostilities break out. Even in the case of facing Russia's latest Kinzhal hypersonic missile or the advanced anti-ship missile that China is developing, F-18, F-35C fighters on carriers can quickly intercept and counterattack enemy fleets. But the US aircraft carriers are not invulnerable. They can still be vulnerable if attacked saturated with large numbers of hypersonic missiles. However, even if that worst case happens, the enemy will immediately be confronted with ballistic missiles launched from 14 Ohio-class nuclear submarines. 11 amphibious ashore ships are capable of maneuvering and quickly bringing the most Allied soldiers in the United States to land to capture enemy coastal bases. Although proactively attacking and causing great damage to the US Navy is not an impossible task for powers like China or Russia, but destroying all of this huge US force is almost impossible. And as soon as they counterattack, the consequences for the enemy will be dire enough to make any country understand that they should not go to war with the US. Although numerous and powerful, traditional air force and navy forces alone are not enough to protect Americans from the threat of destructive attack. Their next deterrent weapon is the fearsome nuclear arsenal. This will be the most important reason why other countries do not want to confront with the US directly. As the first country to put nuclear weapons on the battlefield, the US possesses 5,000 nuclear warheads of all kinds, with an active nuclear warhead of 2,150, including 950 strategic warheads, deployed on 798 launchers and 200 operational nuclear warheads deployed across Europe. The US military is considered the most effective nuclear deterrent in the world. Like Russia and China, intercontinental ballistic missiles play a particularly important role at the heart of America's nuclear deterrence strategy. In the event of a nuclear war between the United States and another nuclear power, ballistic missiles could be launched directly at key enemy cities. Although it is expected to keep only about 400 to 420 of the 500 land-based ICBMs, and the missiles carrying multiple warheads will be converted to carry a single warhead. According to many experts, the Americans will not really get rid of these warheads. It will be used in the event of an all-out war. The US ICBM force is currently deployed in 3 squadrons: Missile Wings 90, 91, and 341. Each missile wing has 150 missiles divided into 3 squadrons, 50 missiles per squadron, controlled by 5 launch control centers. American ballistic missiles are usually armed with W-78 and W-87 warheads with a yield of up to 300 kilotons. For comparison, the atomic bomb Little Boy dropped on Hiroshima created an explosion with a temperature of up to 7,000 degrees Celsius, incinerating all living things within a radius of 1,500 meters. 40% of the inhabitants died instantly. 56.5% died within the following 4 months. In addition to unstoppable ballistic missiles, the United States nuclear deterrent lies in strategic bombers capable of carrying nuclear weapons, such as the B-52 and B-2 Spirit. At bomber squadron bases, the Americans prepared up to 300 nuclear warheads, including B-6111 for a B-2 bomber, B-82-1 and W-81 for a B-52H bomber. In addition, the Americans also possess a non-strategic nuclear arsenal for smaller operations. Although not as destructive as nuclear weapons, the destructive power of these weapons is enough to cause great damage to enemies. The US currently maintains about 200 units of non-strategic nuclear weapons, of which 150 to 200 B-61 Mod 3 and 4 bombs are deployed at European air bases in Belgium, Germany, Italy, the Netherlands, and Turkey. These weapons can be deployed on European bombers. The United States has about 500 non-strategic nuclear warheads in storage at home, mounted on Tomahawk missiles. It can be affirmed that the prospect of an all-out war that damages both the US and any nuclear power will be very unlikely. However, a hostile state has many means of degrading the United States without war. One of them is funding terrorist organizations aiming to attack US interests around the world in order to weaken US military power. Flexible guerrilla tactics have helped rebel groups inflict a great deal of damage on Americans on the battlefields. It was an opportunity for America's high-precision weapons to show its power. Highly developed guided munitions, with their ability to strike quickly and accurately, have been proven on the fiercest battlefields of the 21st century. Smart weapons are worthy of being one of the reasons that no country should go to war with the US. The reality of the battlefield in the Middle East and African region has shown the effectiveness of smart weapons in destroying the enemy's command centers and high-value assets. According to military experts, smart weapons significantly reduce the time, manpower, and cost of military operations. During the 1991 Gulf War, the rate of high-precision weapons did not exceed 3 to 5%, so the preparation period for the operation was up to 5 months, more than 300,000 troops, 2 million tons of weapons and equipment, and 500,000 tons of all kinds of goods were transported by sea and by air to the Gulf region. Even in the 2003 Iraq War, the number of smart bombs used was up to 70%. In the fight against the self-proclaimed Islamic State organization, high-precision weapons have proven their worth in destroying its bases, weapons, and senior leaders. Its ability to strike quickly and effectively is very popular with the US military, despite their increasing expensive price. Even many experts believe that the era of conventional ammunition in the US military will end, giving way to precision weapons. Last on the list is the US UAV force. Since their appearance, drones have become a nightmare for opposing military forces. Its advantages include lightweight, low radar cross-section, large range, high maneuverability, subsonic flight speed, modular structure, ease of modification and modernization. Unmanned vehicles are expected by the US military to profoundly change modern warfare tactics. The Americans have produced more advanced UAVs than the rest of the world. They can perform low-cost intelligence, reconnaissance, surveillance, electronic warfare, and attack missions. They can operate independently or as a sidekick of manned aircraft. The reality has shown the effectiveness of the type of UAVs that the US military owns.